Welcome to the Thrifty Tips Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at how the Amish heat their greenhouses.
Fascinating topic.
Yeah, it really is. Without relying on conventional heating methods
Right.
like gas or electric heating. So we're going to uncover some of those time-tested methods that could help you save money
For sure.
and embrace sustainability and maybe even, cultivate a little more self-sufficiency in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me how they turn, limitations into opportunities for innovation.
Yeah.
And their greenhouse heating techniques are a perfect example of that.
Exactly. And our main source that we're looking at today is a YouTube video by Frugal Solutions
Okay.
called How Amish Heat a Greenhouse Without Gas Electricity.
Great video, packed with tons of information.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, it really showcases their approach of working with nature,
For sure.
not against it.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into it. So one of the things that they do that is just so ingenious is how they utilize the sun. Like they position their greenhouses facing south.
Yeah, to maximize that sunlight exposure.
Yeah, it's like they've created these giant solar panels,
Basically, yeah.
which is amazing. And it's called passive solar heating. And it's not only incredibly effective, it's remarkably simple.
Yeah, and they've even figured out how to do it on cloudy days, too.
I know, it's pretty incredible.
It really is.
And they achieve this through their greenhouse design as well,
Yeah.
like by incorporating angled roofs
Yeah.
and double-layered walls to help trap that heat. It's like building a natural heat bank.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you break that down for me? Like, how do the angled roofs help?
Well, the sun in the winter,
Yeah.
it's lower in the sky, right?
Yeah.
So if you angle the roof south, it allows for that maximum sunlight penetration
Oh,
during the colder months.
interesting.
More so than you would with a flat roof or something like that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's all about working with the natural angles of the sun.
Okay.
And then what about the double-layered walls? What does that do?
Yeah, so basically it creates an insulating air pocket
Uh-huh.
between the layers,
Okay.
and that helps prevent heat loss
Interesting.
and can significantly, reduce heating costs.
So it's kind of like wearing, two sweaters
Exactly.
instead of one on a cold day.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying these thrifty tips, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the podcast.
Okay, so we've got the sunlight streaming in, and it's great during the day, but how do they keep it warm at night?
Yeah, so that's where thermal mass comes in.
Yeah.
They use materials like water, stone, and brick,
Okay.
which absorb heat during the day and then slowly release it at night.
Interesting. So it's like this slow release heater.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
how much of a difference does it actually make?
Well, it's significant. If you think about like a water wall in your greenhouse,
Uh-huh.
a 55-gallon barrel of water can release enough heat to keep a small greenhouse warm through a chilly night.
Wow, that's amazing. And they don't just use water barrels, right?
No, they also use like dark-colored stones and bricks.
Okay.
Those materials absorb and release heat even more effectively.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same principle that makes a black car hotter in the sun than a white car.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're using the sun, they're using thermal mass. What other tricks do they have up their sleeve?
Well, let's talk about composting.
Okay.
It might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about heating.
Yeah, composting, I usually think about, offal soil and,
It is that, but it also generates a surprising amount of heat.
Really?
Yeah, a compost pile can get as hot as 160 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, 160 degrees.
That's hotter than most people keep their homes. If you're enjoying these spoofy tips, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the podcast.
That's amazing. So how do they harness that heat for the greenhouse?
Well, they strategically position the compost piles either around or even inside their greenhouses to radiate that warmth.
So they're turning waste into warmth.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
It's a really great example of sustainable living.
Yeah, and it also produces, that nutrient-rich soil
Right.
for your plants. So it's like win-win.
Absolutely.
So we've covered passive solar heating, thermal mass, composting. What other innovative techniques do they use?
Well, let's talk about windbreaks and insulation.
Okay.
They really understand that keeping that cold air out
Right.
is just as important as generating heat inside.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
how do they create windbreaks?
So they plant things like trees, shrubs, and hedges
Okay.
around their greenhouses strategically,
Uh-huh.
and these act as like natural barriers.
Right.
And it reduces the wind speed and minimizes the heat loss.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like a big hug from Mother Nature for the greenhouse.
I love that.
It can reduce wind speed by up to like 50%.
Wow.
So that really, really cuts down on the heat loss.
That's amazing. So it's like creating a microclimate around the
Exactly.
greenhouse. That's so cool. And Do they use any other insulation?
Yeah, absolutely. They're masters of resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
They use readily available materials like straw bales,
Oh,
wool blankets,
wow.
and even plastic sheeting
Okay.
to insulate the greenhouses even further.
So smart.
Yeah, and they even incorporate, dark colored surfaces
Uh-huh.
inside the greenhouse to help absorb and release heat.
Oh, yeah, like that black car analogy.
Exactly.
It all comes back to that.
Yeah.
It's all about thinking strategically and using those readily available materials.
Mm-hmm.
That's really inspiring.
Mm.
So I'm curious about, the crops that they choose to grow.
Yeah.
In the winter, do they try to grow everything or are they more selective?
They're very strategic about their crop selection, so they focus on cold hardy varieties.
That makes sense.
Things that can withstand those colder temperatures
Right.
so they can continue to harvest throughout the winter.
So they're working with nature, not against it.
Absolutely.
What are some examples of those cold hardy crops?
Well, you've got things like spinach, kale, carrots, beets, all known for their cold tolerance. And some of them, like kale,
Yeah.
actually become sweeter after a light frost.
Oh, wow. So it enhances the flavor.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So not only are they extending their growing season, but they're also, potentially getting like better tasting produce.
Absolutely.
Do they use any other planting techniques to like help extend the season even further?
Yeah. They do what's called succession planting.
Okay.
And basically that involves staggering their planting times
Okay.
so they can have a continuous harvest
Oh, that's smart.
throughout the colder months.
So it's like a carefully choreographed dance
Right.
of planting and harvesting to make sure they always have a supply.
Mm-hmm.
That's really remarkable. So we've talked about a lot of really impressive techniques.
Yeah.
But I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, those cold frames and hotbeds.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about those?
Sure, yeah. Cold frames and hotbeds are just an ingenious and low-tech way
Yeah.
to create these microclimates for plants, extend that growing season,
Right.
and protect them from harsh weather conditions.
It's like a miniature greenhouse inside the greenhouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So think of a cold frame as like a mini greenhouse
Okay.
that traps sunlight and warmth during the day.
Okay.
They're usually made with a wooden frame
Mm-hmm.
covered with like glass or clear plastic sheeting
Right.
that allows that sunlight to penetrate
Right.
but retain the heat.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about hotbeds?
So hotbeds are similar,
Okay.
but they take it a step further by incorporating decomposing organic matter,
Okay.
like manure or compost,
Oh, interesting.
to generate additional heat
From below?
from below. Yeah,
So they're using that composting heat we
exactly.
talked about,
Yeah,
but in a more controlled environment.
precisely. It's like a natural heating pad
Oh, I love that.
for your plants.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as that organic matter breaks down,
Right.
it also provides nutrients to the soil. It's like that whole Amish philosophy of efficiency and minimizing waste.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they combine those two methods?
So they often use cold frames and hotbeds together
Okay.
for maximum benefit.
Okay.
So, the hotbed is warming the soil from below,
Uh-huh.
and the cold frame is trapping the heat from the sun above.
Right.
So you're creating this microclimate that's significantly warmer
Wow.
than the surrounding environment.
It's like a synergy of warmth and protection.
Exactly.
Are these techniques difficult to implement? Like, could I try this at home?
Oh, yeah. Building a cold frame or a hotbed
Yeah.
is relatively simple
Oh.
and inexpensive.
Okay.
You can use, readily available materials like old windows
Oh, wow.
or scrap lumber. So it's a
Yeah.
perfect project for, DIY enthusiasts
Right.
and anyone who's looking to add a touch of that Amish ingenuity to
Yeah.
their garden.
I love it. So simple techniques, common materials,
Right?
incredible results.
Mm-hmm.
It's so inspiring to see how the Amish embrace sustainability and self-reliance,
Yeah,
not just in their greenhouse heating methods, but in their entire way of life.
absolutely. Their commitment to family-owned farms is a testament
Yeah.
to, their dedication to preserving their traditions,
Right.
passing down that knowledge.
It's amazing
Textile-
generations. It's such a contrast to our modern agricultural industry,
For sure.
which often prioritizes profit
Right.
over sustainability and community.
Yeah. The Amish approach is a reminder that we can create a more sustainable
Yeah.
and resilient food system by valuing local knowledge,
Right.
those community connections,
Yeah.
and time-tested practices.
And their greenhouse heating methods are like a perfect example of that philosophy.
It's all about working with nature, using what they have,
Right.
minimizing waste.
It's really powerful. And it's a lesson that I think we can all learn from,
Absolutely.
regardless of, our background or lifestyle.
Yeah, the Amish show us that sustainability doesn't have to be a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It can actually be a source of innovation, resilience, and even beauty.
That's a message worth spreading.
It is. If you're enjoying these thrifty tips, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the podcast.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, we think that we need these complex and expensive solutions to our problems. But the Amish show us that sometimes the simplest, most natural approaches are the most effective.
It's about shifting our mindset, from consumption to one of resourcefulness and creativity.
Absolutely. And, we always encourage our listeners to explore the source material further.
For sure.
Especially that Frugal Solutions video that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed by, the depth of knowledge and ingenuity that's out there.
Absolutely.
And as you go about your day, we challenge you to think about the Amish. And, their remarkable approach to greenhouse heating. And what small changes can you make in your own life to kind of embrace those principles of simplicity and sustainability and self-reliance?
It's not about becoming Amish.
Right.
It's about taking inspiration
Yeah.
from their wisdom and adapting it to our own modern lives.
Exactly. And, if you're enjoying these thrifty tips, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the podcast.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this was great.
Into the world of Amish ingenuity.
A lot to learn from them.
Yeah. We hope you learned something new and maybe even feel inspired to try a few of these techniques yourself.
Absolutely.
Remember, sustainability is a journey, not a destination.
Well said.
And every small step we take makes a difference.
It really does.
Thanks for listening to the Thrifty Tips podcast.
See you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next episode.